because they were always making him do things, like clean his room or do his homework. They were so evil. One day, while trying to get out of housework, Patrick found some magic beans. He knew they were magic beans because it said magic beans on the packet. Patrick planted one, and instantly, a beanstalk grew into the clouds. Great, thought Patrick. I can climb this beanstalk and finally get away from my stupid parents. Patrick quickly climbed the stalk, but waiting at the top was a giant who also happened to be Patrick's school principal, Mr. Jensen. Mr. Jensen wanted to talk to Patrick about all the days he'd missed from school lately. Ah, nuts, said Patrick. I didn't know you lived here. Well, you should have been paying more attention, said Mr. Jensen. Now I have to eat you. And he did. And Patrick's parents lived happily ever after. The end. Tales from Storybook Land. Snow White and the 7 Bogan Cousins. Once upon a time, there lived a beautiful girl named Snow White. Her worn-out old mother hated her because every time she asked Snow White to do something, she would say, "I'm way too beautiful to do that," or "I might break a nail." Her mother got so fed up, she sent Snow White to live with her 7 Bogan cousins. Mullet, Tats, Mocky, Revhead, Muckup, Tight Pants, and Wayne, who lived in the outer suburbs. They made Snow White clean the car, walk the bull terrier, and get hamburgers. One day, a handsome park ranger came looking for Snow White. Snow White was desperate to leave. "Take me with you," she said. But by now, Snow White looked terrible. Her hair was greasy, she was wearing a tracksuit and Ugg boots, and she even owned a ferret. The handsome park ranger decided to pass on Snow White's request and instead gave her a fine for her bull terrier pooing on the footpath. And her 7 Bogan cousins, with Snow White there to adjust their TV aerial, lived happily ever after. The end. Tales from Storybook Land. Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time, there was a lazy girl called Little Red Riding Hood. One day, her mother asked her to take a basket of goodies to her sickly old grandmother. Little Red Riding Hood lay on the couch picking her nose, which was her favorite thing to do. "No way," she said. "I'm busy." "Take these to your grandmother's or I'll ban you from picking your nose," said her mum. So, reluctantly, she set off through the scary woods, but soon thought, "Forget this, I'm going to the beach." Just then, a big bad wolf jumped out. "Where are you going with those goodies?" asked the wolf. "I was supposed to take them to my grandma's," said Little Red Riding Hood, "but you can have them." The wolf was confused and a bit concerned. "But what about your grandmother?" he said. "Who cares?" said Little Red Riding Hood, and took off to the beach. So, feeling a bit guilty, the wolf took the goodies to Grandma. Meanwhile, Little Red Riding Hood was involved in a terrible jet ski accident, where her hands were chopped off, and she could no longer pick her nose. The end. Tales from Storybook Land. Patrick and the 3 Bears. Patrick the teenage elf lived in Storybook Land. One day, while walking past a house, Patrick suddenly felt very, very hungry. He could smell some lovely warm porridge coming from inside. Patrick thought to himself, "I'd love to have some of that." So, using the help of a friendly rabbit, he got inside the house. On the kitchen table sat 3 bowls of porridge, a big one, a middle-sized one, and a small one. Patrick knew that they'd all be either too hot or too cold, so he mixed them all together, and it was just right. Suddenly, 3 bears walked in. They were the gang of bullies from Patrick's school. "What have you done with our porridge, dude?" yelled the bigger bear. "Hi, guys," said Patrick weakly. Moments later, Patrick's head was sticking through the roof of the mushroom house, but at least he wasn't hungry anymore. The end. Tales from Storybook Land. Patrick and Rapunzel. Once upon a time, in a tall tower in Storybook Land, there lived a beautiful girl named Rapunzel who had extremely long hair. One day, Patrick the teenaged elf was walking past the tower. Patrick was very sad. He was such a dork, he still hadn't found anyone to take to the school formal. And then he saw Rapunzel. "This is great," thought Patrick. "A girl who's been trapped in a tower and has no idea who I am might just say yes." "Hey!" yelled Patrick. "What?" shouted Rapunzel. "Want to come to the dance with me?" he hollered back. "Sure," she screamed. "But first you must come up here so that I may see you properly." "If I have to," said Patrick reluctantly. "Climb up my hair," said Rapunzel, and threw down her long golden locks. Patrick quickly pulled on the hair. "Wait, I'm not ready," yelled Rapunzel. But it was too late. Patrick heard a loud ripping sound, then fell to the ground and was covered by a pile of blonde hair. "Are you crazy? I haven't tied it off yet," screamed Rapunzel. "Sorry," said Patrick. Then the dragon that guarded the tower bit Patrick's head off. The end. Tales from Storybook Land. Cinderella. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful girl named Cinderella who lived in a castle with her two horrible sisters. The sisters made Cinderella do all the unpleasant jobs around the house, like feed their fat duck and polish their knees. Then came the invitation to the Royal Underage Disco. But Cinderella had nothing to wear, because her sisters had put all her jeggings into a hot wash, and they'd shrunk. The night of the underage disco, as Cinderella lay crying in her bed, her fairy godmother appeared. But, thinking she was a mosquito, Cinderella reached for a can of bug repellent and sprayed her, until she spun out of control. That night, at the underage disco, Cinderella's two horrible sisters met a prince each and lived happily ever after. Meanwhile, Cinderella was arrested for assaulting a fairy godmother and killing a fat duck.